Good afternoon, everyone. I will just wait for everyone to filter in. But in the meantime, if you could introduce yourself in the chat, that'd be brilliant. We'd love to know where you are in the world and what you're interested in learning today. So please make some noise over there. And also, whilst we wait, I have a Slido in the top. So if you click on the S in the top row, you should be able to access this. We just want to ask which innovative air quality solution you have seen which has the potential to change the world. So any inspiring case study or new technology which we should all know about. And we will get going. My name is Rachel, Communications Project Manager at Cross River Partnership. We have 3 expert speakers today on air pollution and technology and how we can use new solutions to combat the problem of air pollution. So kind of visual and practical solutions to something which we can't always see. So while technology could be seen as impacting the environment negatively, this session will explore the concept of environmental technology and its benefits on air quality, a key environmental issue in our time. So to delve into this topic today, our speakers are Matteo Macario, CEO at Pluvo. Pluvo develop and deploy solutions that actively monitor and remove airborne pollutants from the built environment at scale, helping partners to create healthier and safer spaces. We also have Gail Rowe, Customer Director at Liberty Charge, joined by Planning Manager Nabil Natser. Liberty Charge are an on-street charge point operator, and their mission is to deliver the UK's most reliable and widely accessible public EV network via a fully funded solution to local authorities, meaning that they can roll out further charge points when needed. With no funding needed, sorry. And finally, Safina Ataru, Project Manager at Cross River Partnership, will be speaking about how we are working to improve air quality through data-driven, ambitious freight solutions. So please ask any questions along the way via the Teams chat, and we'll answer these during the Q&A session, which will commence just after 4:30. A new review published in the journal Lancet Planetary Health analysed data from the 2019 Global Burden of Disease Project, so the most recent available, found that air pollution caused almost 75% of 9 million pollution deaths. So, sorry, awareness of this is key, and it's great today that we can explore some of the options for reduction through new innovative infrastructure. Perfect, lots of messages in the chat. And this leads me nicely to CRP's annual report and business plan, where we set out targets for Cross River Partnership to improve air quality. So these are just some of our targets for the year. And we're working across a variety of projects to improve London's air quality for all. CRP's vision is to address sustainability challenges collaboratively in London and beyond. And as a testbed for exciting projects in towns and cities, we will share knowledge, evidence, and best practice for people who live, work, and visit these places. So we're delighted to be working with all the partners on the screen to achieve this. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Matteo Macario, who will be exploring Pluvo's technology for tackling air pollution across the UK. So over to you, Matteo.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks everyone for tuning in and for your time today. I know we're all quite busy people, so happy to introduce Pluvo, which is our startup that's looking to tackle air pollution. Yeah, you can go just next slide. So, while obviously there's many solutions that are required for air pollution, we believe Pluvo is an important piece of that. And I'm excited to just go through some of the high-level things we can do and help our partners with. So, as you all know, I won't go too much into the scary stats, but famously, the World Health Organization called air pollution the new tobacco or the new smoking. And as Rachel alluded to, it contributes to around 7 million deaths annually. This isn't just in developing parts of the world. This is essentially everywhere that's especially in urban areas, and it has wide-ranging impacts. We're finding more and more about it, whether it be cognitive development of children, even reproductive function, cardiovascular health. The effects of air pollution is wide-ranging, and no amount of air pollution is good for you. So this is why we've decided to focus on this health crisis. So essentially, what it boils down to with Pluvo is our mission here is to create healthy spaces for people to breathe in. And this here is our first product, the Pluvo column. And so we attack air pollution in a three-pronged manner. The first is an immediate protection effect. How do we do that? It's essentially an air filter within the unit itself. So it's an air scrubbing unit that creates clean air zones and reduces air pollution in local areas. So the first is an immediate health impact. And then the second bit is these columns are actually quite visual, being somewhat similar to street furniture. And so we would leverage the platform of the Pluvo column and these spaces to educate, help engage and inform the public about the importance of air quality and healthy living. And then finally, within the units, not only is the air filtration technology, but also air quality monitoring, which allows us to essentially gather lots of data around local air quality, pollution sources, and help landowners and or key decision makers or policy decision makers have more informed decisions because of the data we're able to provide. So that's the kind of like the high level three-pronged attack that our first product, the Pluvo column, takes to help deal with air pollution. So here I've kind of highlighted some of the specifications. The main thing is, and what we're proud of, is how small the footprint of the unit is. Not only the actual physical footprint, which is about 0.5 meter squared. So think half of a telephone booth or half of a vending machine. But it's also the energy footprint, where this thing runs. Generally, we saw with our initial unit, it ran under a kilowatt. Right now, we're estimating that it could run slightly over a kilowatt, but the actual energy use of this is very minimal. And then in terms of the installation requirements, really all you need is mains connection and some sort of foundation base plate to make sure it's secured. And then it connects over any sort of a wide range of different connection options. So yeah, we've developed a cutting edge technology in terms of a 3-tiered air filtration process, which happens within the unit. This targets the usual baddies in terms of air pollution, which are particulate matter, so fine particles, which can be made out of brake wear, dust wear, tire wear, soot, carbon black, that can go straight into lungs and even blood vessels on the smaller end of the thing. And then as well, gases. So gases tend to be from exhaust or combustion. So harmful gases like NOx, SOx, etc. Happily enough, it also is very effective at trapping and killing viruses, and we have lab studies to prove this. So with Innovate UK, we won a SMART grant, which enabled us to both develop the prototype and test it with our partners Landsec and Savills. This is out in North Finchley, near the North Circular and the A1000. And so we saw substantial reductions at a 13-meter distance. So where that A is on the lamppost, we saw over 20% reduction in gases and anywhere from 50% to 70% reduction across the particulate matter sizes. Being particularly efficient with PM1 and PM2.5, which are the really harmful ones that can go directly into bloodstream. So these are really good indicative results in actually kind of a worst case scenario being open air next to a road. So not even like the highest impact scenarios, which we're going to look at now on the next slide. So we're looking at really the low-hanging fruit in terms of where can we have the most impact in terms of places where there's both pollution sources and people dwelling for a long time. And transport hubs are a very compelling case for this. So this is a model computer simulation of just 4 of our Pluvo columns installed in a station along a platform that's 150 meters long. And as you can see in the dark green, that's 25% or up reduction of pollutants. And that covers about 3/4 of a platform. So really compelling use case in terms of these enclosed, semi-enclosed transport hubs or multimodal transport hubs. And this is a place that we're really excited as a company and for this product. So as I alluded to earlier, we have quite advanced sensing technology within the unit as well, both at inlet and outlet. What this allows us to do is both look at how the unit is operating, schedule maintenance, and actually make the unit quite smart about when it turns itself on versus turning itself off, making sure it's not using energy when not needed, but it also attacks pollution when it's present. So all of this data is also accumulated up on our cloud, which then allows us to create custom dashboards or reports for policy and decision makers, whether that be the landowners or whoever our customer might be, even the public, if that is of interest with our partners. So we can also help reduce the cost of the actual air cleaning service that we provide and of the units, and this would be through sponsorship. So similar to the Santander bikes, we do have static displays that are available for brand sponsorship, and that is an option in terms of reducing the costs of the actual running of the units. And finally, one of the more exciting recent points is we've actually we're working on a deal with Network Rail to actually deploy these units in our first commercial trial with Network Rail at a busy UK rail station, which will prove like the use case of these polluted semi-enclosed transport hubs, which we're really excited about and working towards with Network Rail. Yeah, so to wrap up, we believe we have a compelling proposition in terms of this, let's say, Trojan horse for clean tech, being the Pluvo column, where you both get high impact air purification, air quality monitoring, and the ability to do sponsorship or just engage the public or your customers with information that you want to share, whether that be wayfinding or generally air quality information. So we think we have a great turnkey product, and that also helps attack various sustainable development goals. So thank you for your time. And on the last slide, you have my contact details. The QR code actually goes to the general email, but look forward to speaking with you guys and answering some questions.
Thanks so much, Matteo. And yes, if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we can go through them in the Q&A at the end. Brilliant. I'd now like to hand over to our next speakers, Gail and Nabil, who will be speaking about technology, but a slightly different perspective of charging. So over to you both.
Right, next slide, please. Thank you. So thanks very much. So just a quick introduction to Liberty Charge. We're an electric vehicle charge point. We deliver an instant, privately funded smart EV solution. So essentially, we deploy electric vehicle charge point infrastructure for local authorities and public sector partners. We're a joint venture with Liberty Global and Souk Capital. So Liberty Global own Virgin Media, and Souk Capital, they manage the Treasury's Charging Infrastructure Fund. We offer all ranges of charging speeds, and one of the things I'll talk about are the different types of chargers. We provide on-street, off-street, and also e-mobility hubs. And we work with Virgin Media O2 to install our charging points. So essentially, where Virgin Media are deploying broadband, we can put electric vehicle charging infrastructure on top, which essentially allows us to dig once and minimize disruption to local residents. Next slide, please. So in terms of what we can help, what we can offer, we work with local authorities to deploy charging solutions. I'm a chartered town planner. Nabil's got a great background in GIS, and we've got engineers. And so we've got this fantastic team of engineers, planners that can work with local authority partners. As I said, we can deploy e-mobility hubs and also e-car clubs charging infrastructure. Next slide, please. So in terms of the EV charging solutions, next slide, please. Next slide, please. So typically what we see is three types of chargers. We have the slow chargers. So these are typically lamp columns, and typically it takes between 10 to 24 hours to charge a car. And then you have the fast chargers, which are 7 to 22 kilowatts, and it's 3 to 6 hours to charge your car. And then you have the rapids, and there's 50 kilowatts, and it's less than an hour, so it's typically around 50 minutes. And then you have the ultra rapids of around, and typically it takes 20 minutes to charge your car. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we do at Liberty Charge is support local authorities to actually look at where they deploy charge points. So in this example of Southwark, what we can see is you have rapid right on the waterfront, and actually that's destination charging. And then at the back, in the more neighbourhoods where it's more densely populated, you'll have your slow and also your fast charge points. So essentially what we're looking to do is deploy the right type of charger in the right locations, so that it gives electric vehicle drivers range confidence that recharging is available should they want to travel locally or make long distance road trips. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand over to Nabil, who's going to talk about how we project demand.
Yeah, thanks, Gail. So just looking at CRP partner boroughs, we can have a brief understanding of how our demand model works and how it informs our site selection process. So next slide, please. Yeah, so we mainly deploy on-street. So for us, it is important to understand where people need on-street charging the most, because they do not have access to off-street parking. In order to do so, we use the percent of terrace and flats by lower super output areas, which is a sense of geography. This is a proxy that gives us a good indication where people driving an EV would need to charge on-street, because they do not have access to a private driveway or a garage on their property. This is, of course, not a perfect measure, as not all terrace houses are without a driveway, but still, this gives us a good indication to help us prioritize deployment in certain areas. Next slide, please. Another layer of information that we look at is the existing charging infrastructure. So we look at where existing charging points are and what type of charging speed they provide, the level of accessibility, if they are on private or publicly accessible land. And we also check, where possible, the level of utilization of the existing charging points, so that we can develop a network plan informed by the existing data and able to address first those areas that have a higher demand. Next slide, please. And in order to reinforce our network plans, we develop a site selection tool in collaboration with Loughborough University that has both a regional and local perspective on the need for on-street charging points. In particular, we develop what we call a regional level of activation, which assigns a score from 1 to 5 to all local authorities in the UK, based on their need for on-street charging, where 1 is the highest level of need. So as you can see from the map, CRP partner boroughs are all on the upper 3 levels of need for on-street charging points, with the City of London, Westminster, Kensington and Chelsea, and Wandsworth having the highest score. Next slide, please. So in addition to this, we narrow our analysis also at the local level with what we call the local level of activation, that is able to assign a score as well from 1 to 5 to all lower super output areas, LSOAs, where 1, also in this case, is the highest level of need for on-street charging. So in this case, if we had to develop a network plan together with CRP partner boroughs, for instance, we could start prioritizing deployment in those LSOAs that you see from the map that have a score of 1 and 2, and progressively deploy in areas that score 3, 4, and 5 over the following years, checking data on the utilization. And this is a model that we use to deploy charging points in several local authorities, both in London and outside of London in the past few years. And after we deploy, we monitor the utilization And so far, we have been able to see that there is a strong correlation between the level of activation, R score, and the number of transactions and kilowatts that are drawn at each location. So generally, a site deployed within an area of 1 with a level of activation 1 will start from day 1 of commissioning with a higher utilization than level 2, for instance. And month by month, it will continue to have both a higher utilization and also a faster growing number of transactions over a period of time. So I'll hand over to Gail.
Thank you. So as shown in the bill slide, we show a range of EV charge points across London. The e-mobility expands the model. Here, car parking bays are not the places to store vehicles. Instead, they become positive places for shared transportation. Next slide, please. And at this side, what we can see is a range of micro-mobility. So you've got scooters in Wandsworth, so e-bikes in Hammersmith and Fulham. But also, if you look at the mayor's strategy.
Gail, sorry to interrupt. You're slightly muffled on the microphone. Do you mind holding it like maybe slightly a different angle? Might be able to hear you better.
Is that any better?
Yeah, that's slightly better there. Yeah, okay, it might just be the headphones. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Okay then. So across this cross-road partnership area, we've got some great examples from e-scooters in Wandsworth to e-bikes in Hammersmith and Fulham. Is that any better?
I think it's better when you held it, sorry, slightly in different angle.
Okay, is that any better?
Slightly better, but yeah, I don't know, yeah.
Sorry about that.
I think it's still slightly muffled, no problem.
Okay then. So essentially what we're doing with e-mobility is integrating micro-mobility with e-car clubs to offer a sustainable e-mobility travel solution. And why are we integrating car clubs? Car clubs are more sustainable as they shift car owners away from private car ownership, which in turn reduces the number of vehicles on the road, reducing further harmful greenhouse gases. E-clubs are also socially inclusive, as it provides a green, accessible mode of transport for residents who currently cannot afford anything. And this is a solution that, as I said, we're looking at rolling out for a number of local authorities. Next slide, please. So this is a solution that we're looking at in Hammersmith and Fulham. And what we have is what we call our feeder pillar. And this becomes a smart cities cabinet. And within the smart cities cabinet, we can actually have our quality sensors. We designate one of the bays as resident only, and the other bay becomes a car club bay. And in the final bay, we have e-scooters and e-bike bay. So this is a solution that we're looking at developing in Hammersmith and Fulham, also with a number of other local. Next slide, please. So just picking up on some of the questions around e-mobility hubs, what is the size and scale of an e-mobility hub? Essentially, it varies from local authority to local authority. But what we'd encourage is to look at transport hubs and actually placing your e-mobility solution in transport hubs, but also potentially looking at population side and how that is then sliced across the population. And then in terms of how should local authorities safeguard land for them, this actually reserves like locations where e-mobility sites solutions can be deployed. So essentially what we're looking at is doing some sort of feasibility research in terms of where those sites are, and actually then designating those sites as e-mobility, and then working with an operator that is credible to manage those e-mobility locations. Next slide, please. So in terms of evidencing air quality improvements, like a number of other transport operators, we provide monthly reports to our local authority partners on utilisation, also CO2 savings, And what we can also do is, as I said earlier, we can actually put quality sensors into feeder pillars. So actually we can demonstrate the kind of impact of charging infrastructure on improving air policy. In terms of how does this program support or interact and support Breathe London, we're currently not working with Breathe London, but we'd love to. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both for a really great presentation. Okay, over to Speednap before our Q&A to speak about CRP's tools and some of our technology work.
Hello everyone, my name is Safina Totaru. I am a project manager at Cross River Partnership, and I will be speaking to you today about Click Collect Clean Air, which is a tool we developed in 2017 to encourage people to pick up their personal deliveries closer to home rather than having them delivered to their offices, typically in the city centre. We are updating it as part of Clean Air Villages 4, which I'll abbreviate to CAV4 for the rest of my presentation. CAV4 is a DEFRA-funded project. Together with 26 partners, we are working on a variety of interventions to improve the air quality across different London villages, which are both air pollution and population, which are areas where both air pollution and population density levels are high in the city. We have split the interventions across 5 strands: consolidation, distribution, mode, communication, and technology. Let's see. So, although my fellow speakers touched on it earlier, I'm going to quickly talk about air quality in London and its impacts. The image you see here is the annual pollution map of Greater London from the London Air Quality Network. London regularly exceeds the limits for particulate matter. By particulate matter, think vapors such as dust, soot, smoke, and microscopic drops of liquid. So we regularly exceed the limits for particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide set by the World Health Organization at 5 and 10 micrograms per year, respectively. A study from King's College London attributed some 3,500 premature deaths to particulate matter and some 5,900 deaths to nitrogen dioxide annually. The study estimated that the cost of these deaths is at £3.7 billion. Another study found that living near a busy road could be behind some 230 hospital admissions for strokes, as well as responsible for stunted lung development in children. And the reasons for air pollution: we have industry, we have domestic and commercial heating systems, and we have road transport. I will be focusing on road transport. And as the slide shows, it contributes to some 42% of UK's nitrogen dioxide and 12% of PM 2.5. And so then I guess the next thing is where deliveries come in. So according to Transport for London, some 80% of London's freight is delivered by road. Light commercial vehicles, think pickup trucks, vans, and less common three-wheelers, make up some 13% of London's road traffic. And during the morning peak, this works out to more than 7,000 vans per hour moving around the city, collecting and dropping off packages, but also contributing to congestion and emissions. Before the pandemic, Transport for London estimated that almost 25% of road transport carbon emissions came from goods vehicles. So moving on. So at CRP, we try to create tools to support people trying to reduce their impact on the environment. As you can see on the slides, I have little screenshots from various tools, which include the Clean Air Villages directory, which lists local businesses that offer low emission deliveries and services. We have Cleaner Routes, which offers alternative walking and cycling routes with reduced exposure to air pollution than you would have on busier roads. We have the Clean Air tool to help users visualize the emission savings. And finally, we have Click Collect Clean Air to help users find Click Collect locations away from their offices. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we developed Click Collect Clean Air in 2017. Back then, Click Collect was still the less preferred choice, with people opting for deliveries to their homes, where there was a chance they wouldn't be there to receive their packages, leading to multiple attempts and trips to deliver the package to the recipient, or they would have it delivered to their workplaces, where time that should be spent by the mailroom staff working on work-related deliveries was instead spent on managing employees' personal packages. So the premise behind the tool was simple: allow users to see locations of various pickup locations from providers around the city and select the most convenient provider and location, have their item delivered there and pick it up at their convenience. Times have changed since then, and with online shopping surging, particularly since the COVID-19 lockdowns, light commercial traffic is expected to increase more than 20% by 2031. Let's see. Like virtual meetings, most of us have grown comfortable with Click Collect, sometimes opting to pick up even when we know we're going to be home. Still, with a lot of us returning to the office, there is a danger that old bad habits will creep in and we might be tempted to receive our items at work. So here are some screenshots from the current website. The first image shows how the map works. You simply enter your preferred zip code and select your preferred provider to see what options are closest to you. A lot has changed, though, in the past 5 years, and some of the providers listed here have changed their business models, and therefore we're updating the site. Let's see. One new feature that's been suggested by CAV4 partners for the new site is allowing the users to generate travel directions from the location they enter to their collection point, walking, cycling, or public transport, complete with estimated travel time. We hope that this will encourage more active travel. We're expecting to launch the updated website next month. Let's see, what else? So I guess finally what I will say is that retailers know that their customers want convenience. Every has click collect counters in supermarkets like Tesco. More collection lockers are available around the city, and Amazon has made it even easier to pick up and return items at their Amazon Fresh stores. We don't even have to worry about repacking our Amazon purchases when making returns. So by receiving our deliveries closer to home and collecting them when and where it's convenient for us, we are also helping to reduce van movements around the city, decreasing congestion, and making life a little bit easier for our work colleagues in the mail and post rooms, and allowing them to concentrate on their more related tasks. So all in all, win-win in many areas. And I think that's it from me. So I guess I'll be happy to take on any questions.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I will just take down the slides. I don't know if it's letting you do that, Speednap, but it's not letting me.
So do you want to take control again?
Yes, perfect. Figured that one. Thank you. There's been lots of questions through Eventbrite, so I'll just invite speakers to come back and we can go to panel questions. So Matteo, we've had a question from Dean Wendelbourne, Westminster City Council, about how the on-street technologies are powered, solar, wind, mains power, and if it's solar or wind, how are the locations determined to give full year power demand? So I'll go to you for that one.
Yeah, good question. So right now it's mains powered. There is scope to potentially add some solar power, but it won't be enough to power the whole unit. So primarily mains, but where we have a choice, we would use renewable suppliers, such as the various ones that are Octopus and so on. I think they were also asking about metered or unmetered. It depends on the power draw. I think if we stay under a kilowatt, we can also do as an unmetered, but it also depends on whether we're on private land or public land. So thanks for the question.
So octopus and people like that are something you'd look towards in the future, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, where we can choose who the supplier is, we'll choose a renewable energy supplier, of course.
Brilliant. Okay. I'll go to you, Gail, from Will on the London Borough of Islington. He's asked that he's interested in hearing about data-driven work to improve air quality, particularly how to quantify the impact of the provision of EV charging networks. So how does this program kind of interact with the Breathe London program? Oh, I think you're on mute, Gail.
Sorry, I answered that earlier. So there's two things. One of the things that we do is that we provide data to local authority partners on a monthly basis on utilisation, but also on carbon savings. And one of the things that we can do with our feeder pillars is actually install quality sensors, and we can provide that data to local authority partners. In terms of the Breathe London programme, we're not part of that yet, but we're very interested, and I've kind of reached out to them to see how we can collaborate and work together.
Brilliant. And Nabil, Tom from LCC has asked, what should the density of e-mobility and shared mobility hubs be, and how could local authorities safeguard the land for those? You touched on those earlier.
Yeah, I mean, for each local authority, we can look at the level of activation, see all the variables that we have in the site selection tool, and try to define, try to identify the best locations to prioritize, and then based on the utilization, we can decide how we move forward to expand the existing network or to prioritize the different areas. So yeah, for every local authority, that's the process that we follow. We could also in Islington, you said, yeah.
That was the previous question actually, but yeah, I guess if people had kind of location specific questions, they could get in contact with you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, did you have anything to add on that one?
No, just to the point that Nabil made, which is that we can use the evidence, but also the kind of insights and any conversations, contribution from local authorities. Yeah, we'll take on board in terms of how we design e-mobility hubs, because what we've presented is two types of hubs. One is relatively small, and then you've got larger hubs. So yeah, it really just depends on the local authority, on what they're looking for. I think one of the challenges that we're very well aware of is the kind of challenge around the curbside. So you've got cycle handlers, you've got electric vehicle charging points, and you've also got the quality filters as well. So we just need to make sure that we're maximising use of the curbside.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant, thank you. Keep any questions coming in the chat as well. I have got another one from Eventbrite for Speednap. So Ian Wainwright from Future City Logistics has asked, has said about behaviour change being critical to achieving air quality and decarbonisation goals. But I guess the speakers on this panel are kind of from a tech background. So what is CRP and other speakers doing to encourage the necessary change of behaviour from individuals and from businesses?
I would say that with our work at CRP, it's very much about supporting people to make better decisions. With behavior change, I think it's really about encouraging people to make a change, showing them the benefits of taking a certain action, sometimes easing them into that action, but also very much keeping that support ongoing. So whether it's by presenting information or by making tools such as Click, Collect, and Clean Air Walking Routes and the Clean Air tool, and we have, of course, other tools available on our website, really just kind of creating a smorgasbord, giving people the choice so that they don't necessarily feel forced into into taking certain actions, but just kind of showing them that it's there and it's doable, and just enforcing that message and keeping it going.
Brilliant. I don't know if anyone else on the panel wanted to elaborate on that from their organisation about kind of encouraging behavioural change from individuals and from businesses.
Yeah, I think one thing to weigh in on with air quality is it, like with anything, I think having an understanding of where you have problems is quite important. So we have great relationships with purely air quality sensing companies. So trying to quantify what the problem is and then how to attack it. So we find a lot more, and this is where we were fortunate to have partners within Network Rail who are very focused on just the air quality piece and very aware of the problems they're trying to deal with. I think it's kind of like the different stages of a solution. The first is awareness or having some sort of way of measuring it.
So if I can add to that as well, one of the things that we're trying to do with electric vehicle infrastructure is our relationship with car club operators. So what we know is that people on low incomes or in certain locations, they're not able to afford an electric vehicle. So actually by making car clubs available, what you're doing is you're nudging people out of private cars and just using cars on an occasional basis, and it's an electric car. So, you look at ways in which you nudge people out of existing behaviours by providing incentives.
Brilliant, thank you for your contributions. Matteo, there's one more question about kind of how the devices could be used to make a wider contribution to placemaking aspirations. So, yeah, I guess if you could fit them into the built environment through the new initiative into the built environment and placemaking. I don't know whether you have any comments on that.
Yeah, so we have discussed with various partners different add-ons in terms of placemaking, whether it be as simple as seating area, or in terms of like the wayfinding is obviously a very easy one to fit in. Other things that have come in of interest are different, like phone charging points, a potential for like helping out with 5G small cell rollouts. So it really depends on what the council or the partners are looking for, but there is space in this column for added functionality. Obviously, our focus really is on tackling the air pollution, but in terms of fitting it to a specific council or specific partner's needs, there's definitely scope for that as well. In terms of the actual place making aspect, I think the most important thing is to have a healthy place or healthy spaces for people to be in. That's really where we're focused. But then, obviously, there's add-ons that can help with the placemaking.
Brilliant. I think that's really handy for partners to know as well. I can't see any other questions in the chat now, so I'll just share our contact details back on the screen. Bear with me. I'll have to go through and put these back on. But thank you so much for everyone for joining. I will quickly go to our details. Yeah, if you have any further questions, everyone's email is on screen now from our brilliant speakers, and CRP's contact information as well. I'll let you look at that one first. Also like to point you to our next session, should be in the chat soon, taking place in June, online as well, with Central District Alliance and Steer. We'll be launching a new Vision Zero report from CRP, and Central District Alliance will be presenting on their public realm work and their new strategies. So those are our contact details, and they're also in the chat if you want to get involved in any of our future events and take a look at our social media. But thank you very much to our speakers and for everyone for attending.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Speak soon. Bye.